Split testing or A/B testing allows you to test the effectiveness of a particular pop-up or embedded opt-in versus another design. It is an extremely powerful feature because you want to find out how to best make use of the visitor's time on your website. To configure a split test, go to the Split Test tab and you can add a new split test. The test status for every newly created split test is going to be stopped. We will need to configure the variables that we want to use for it before we can actually activate it. In the design and test weight section, you will see that the control row is always present. The control design is what you are currently using. This is the baseline that you will be evaluating the test against. So we will select a pop-up design. One very important thing to remember is that the display setting for the control will be used for this entire test. Once you have selected the controlled pop-up, you can add a variable to test against it. In this case, I will test pop-up number 3 versus pop-up number 2 in the hope that pop-up number 2 might have a higher conversion to pop-up number 3. Before enabling the split test, I want to show you what the website currently looks like. So for test number 3, we have enabled it to be an exit intent pop-up for all pages. And for pop-up number 2, we have enabled it to appear almost immediately as a time delay pop-up. And regarding to the design, I am actually testing a choice pop-up versus pop-up number 2, which is a simple opt-in. In this incognito window, I will show you how the pop-up currently works. So the time delay pop-up shows up almost immediately as configured, and the exit intent pop-up will show up as well. A very important point to remember is that once the split test is enabled, the display setting for the control pop-up will be used. So in this case, that's pop-up number 3. And the display setting for the variables will no longer be valid. What that means is that if you have configured the variable pop-up to appear, it no longer will do so with its own display settings. In this case, what it means is that pop-up number 2 will no longer show up as a time delay pop-up. Instead, it will have a 50-50 chance of showing up as an exit intent pop-up. And the exit intent pop-up will appear on all pages. This is a very important point to remember because if you have configured the variable pop-up to appear on separate pages, those will no longer be valid either. It's highly recommended that you do not do that. The variable pop-up should only be used as a variable for testing. It should not have its own display settings. What that means is that the display triggers for the variable pop-up should be all unchecked, and the additional settings section should not appear. This way, you will not be confused on whether this one is going to be appearing. Once we have configured all of the display settings that we want to use, we can set the split test to be running. Another good thing to do is to rename the split test. Once this is done, let's save the changes. In this incognito window, you can see that as I refresh, the pop-up will appear. And when I refresh again, you can see that the pop-up has changed. That's because based on the split testing, I will be randomly shown one of the 2 variations. When we look at the split testing stats, because the 2 pop-ups have drastically different characteristics, the target for the overall result can be selected. The control one is a yes or no button. So what we really care about is how often the yes button has been clicked. But for variable 1, it is a regular sign-up. So what we really care about is the conversion rate. All of these are a percentage for easy comparison, and the number of views can be used to determine whether the test is significant or not. So if there are only been 2 or 3 views, even though one might have a higher rate, if there's only 2 or 3 views, it's obviously not going to be significant. But if the result is accumulated over hundreds of views, then you can use that to make a decision on which pop-up is more effective. For someone who wants to do more analytics, you can go for the detailed result view. For this one, it's similar to the stat tracking one, where you can decide what particular numbers you want to look at. You can choose the design, whether it's control or variant, and all the numbers that is available in the target selection is available here as well. You can use the download data link to download the full time series of the numbers that you have selected based on the filter. Just as in stats tracking, only 7 days is shown in the detailed results view, but the fold CSV file will contain all of the data that is available up to 1 year. In this example, we have shown you how to set up a split testing with one control and one variate. Of course, you can add a third or fourth variate, but that's not as commonly done because most of the time, we really just want a one-to-one comparison for simplicity. If you do want to add a third or fourth variate, you can just click on the Add Variate button and a new one will be added.